Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining today's Bhagavatam class. We'll be reading Canto 2, Chapter 2, verse number 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Please chant alongside. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhirayet Shrunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Hyabadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Ashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti
Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe
Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe
pradeshamatram purusham vasantam
pradeshamatram purusham vasantam
chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha
chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha
gadadharam dharanaya smaranti
gadadharam smaranaya smaranti
Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe
Kechit swadehantarhridayavakashe
pradeshamatram purusham vasantam
pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti
Shetsva tadadvidam akashe
केचित् स्वदेहान्तर्दयावकाशे
Deshamatram purusham vashantam
प्रादेशमात्रं पुरुषं वसन्तम्
Chaturpujam kanjaratam vashankha
चतुर्भुजं कञ्जरथाङ्गशङ्खा
Yasmaranti
गदाधरं धारणया स्मरन्ति. Word to word translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai
Kechit
Kechit
others Swadeha Antaha
Swadeha Antaha
within the body
Within the body
Hridaya Avakashe
Hridaya Avakashe
in the region of the heart
In the region of
Pradeshamatram
Pradeshamatram
measuring only 8 inches Purusham
Purusham
the personality of Godhead
The personality of
Vasantam
Santam
residing Chatubhujam
Chaturabhujam
with 4 hands
With four hands
Kanja
Kanja
lotus
Lotus
Ratha Anga
Anga
the wheel of a chariot
Wheel of the chariot
Shankha
Shankha
Kangsha
Kangsha
Gadadharam
Gadadharam
and with a club in the hand
Love in the hand
Dharanaya
Dharanaya
conceiving in that way
Conceiving of that
Smaranti
Smaranti
do meditate upon him
Do meditate
Translation Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. Purport The all pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord described in this verse with distribution of different symbols, beginning from the lower right hand up and down to the lower left hand with lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club respectively, is called Janardana, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass. There are many other forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols of lotus, conch shell, etc., and they are differently known as Purushottama, Achyuta, Narasimha, Trivikrama, Rishikesha, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshan, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayana, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnu Murti, Adhokshaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of the plenary system. And in each system, there is an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma. There are many other hundreds and scores of different forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. The Lord exists as Purusha or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, non different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated, as described below. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for attending the class. I will try my best to share what I have read and heard in previous classes and previous readings. So none of this is really realization. It's just me repeating whatever I've heard. You've given me your most valuable time. As Kautukana Prabhu said in a recent class, Ayusha Kshana Ekopi na labhya swarna kotivihi. or as many people in the material world will recall, this is what Iron Man said in the famous movie Avengers: "No amount of money ever bought a second of time," which is paraphrasing what Chanakya says. So in today's class, as we see in Prabhupada's purport, there's a lot of emphasis on the Paramatma, feature of the Lord. So here we see in this whole canto, as first we see the a slightly pantheistic view, or a more you could say the Virat Rupa of the Lord, and then we are slowly progressing into the Paramatma feature of the Lord. And very importantly, the next chapter is literally pure devotion service. I think that's what the name of the chapter is. Yes, it's called Pure Devotion Service. And to be fair, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam could have ended there, because by then all of the questions are already answered. And if you really see, there's a similar structure in the Bhagavad Gita as well. The contents of the Gita are summarized in the second chapter itself. Everything that Arjuna needs to know is there. But for the benefit of everybody, Arjuna further probes and questions Krishna, and Krishna expands upon everything and gives us a more complete picture for our benefit, because Arjuna had already understood by the second chapter. Similarly, we see all of the questions will be answered, and literally the third chapter of the second canto itself is pure devotional service. And in that chapter, all the answers are given. But for the great benefit of all the listeners like me, they Parikshit Maharaj expands, asks more questions, and gives us a better understanding. So right now we're talking about the Paramatma feature of the Lord. I think in the previous class I was mentioning that Vaisheshwar Maharaj was saying that the film on the car windows gives or reminds him of the Paramatma, because whoever is inside the car can see outside, but whoever is outside cannot see inside the car because of the film, the photoprotective film that's on the windows. And this goes to show that the Paramatma is the witness, and the Paramatma witnesses quietly whatever the soul wants, and the soul wants, and the body does. So we see that the verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, Upadrashta Anumantascha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. It said that the Paramatma is Upadrashta, which is Upa is to over, and Drashta, Drishya, is to see. So he's the overseer, he is a witness, he sees what is being done quietly. And he's also Anumanta, which is Anuman is to give permission or sanctioner. So he's the overseer and the sanctioner. Upadrashta Anumantascha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. He's Bharta, he is the master, and he's the Bhokta, he is the supreme enjoyer. And he is Maheshwara, he is the greatest among the gods. He's the supreme lord. So this is what the position of the Paramatma is. He's the overseer and he's also the sanctioner. And we also have heard multiple times that he is Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. So that's because he sanctions it. But an important nuance there is he is the cause of all causes, but not the cause of all effects, which is exactly what we call as free will. He sanctions Hiranyakashipu to perform all of his austerities without coming in his way. There are many instances in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself where we see that sometimes Krishna intervenes when something is going on, but sometimes he does not intervene. Of course, he's supreme and he knows what he's doing and he has the greatest plan. So when Hiranyakashipu was performing his austerities, when the ant hills encompassed Hiranyakashipu, and a lot of heat was generated and all the demigods had to go, and Lord Brahma had to come and give whatever benediction Hiranyakashipu wanted, the Supreme Lord, he sanctioned it, he allowed it to happen. But that does not mean that all the atrocities that Hiranyakashipu performed is because of the Supreme Lord. He's not the cause of the effect of whatever Hiranyakashipu ended up doing. And he then comes and kills Hiranyakashipu, which we celebrated as Narsimha Chaturdashi recently, and is also Narsimha, one of the 24 forms with a Paramvyoma, or within the Paravyoma, which means Lord Narsimha has his own planet. And we see that Mother Lakshmi was like, oh, I've never seen this form of the Lord, when he was in his most ferocious state. And at that time, Jiva Goswami comments that this was just like obviously they have their own planet, Narsimadev, and in the spiritual sky, and uh, Mother Lakshmi uh, did that out of certain potency of the Yogamaya, so that Prahlad Maharaj could be given the ultimate respect, adoration, and put him in the spotlight in that situation. So that's the reason why um, the Yogamaya potency of the Lord covered Mother Lakshmi herself. So what we see here about the Paramatma is we can really realize the Paramatma. So there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that tells you how to realize the Paramatma. So we know that in the 5th chapter it says Pandita Samadarshina, that the real sage is one who can see everybody with equal vision. The nuance there is he does not see everybody equally, he sees them with equal vision, understanding that whether it's a dog, whether it's a brahmana, whether it is some other animal, they have the Paramatma within. So their body is just a temple for the Paramatma. And when they offer obeisances, it is also to the Paramatma, to see that the Paramatma is within. So it also goes to show that we must take care of our bodies, because the body is the temple and the Paramatma is the deity within that temple. And one thing that I was trying to like bring to this purport and to this class was one thing that I've been thinking about more recently, and that is how the guru reciprocates with the disciple, and how the Paramatma is the one who is the mediator, who communicates with the guru what the disciple needs and what the how sincere the disciple is and everything, even without the disciple's every action or activity witnessed by the guru. So I think I've mentioned in a recent class that, let's say, for example, there are two devotees. Let's say, for example, um, Anand Chaitanya Prabhu and, for example, let's say Kautukarna Prabhu are sitting in a class, and it's, let's say, Vaishali Maharaj's class. No matter, even though it's the exact same um, words spoken by Maharaj, what Kautukarna Prabhu gets and what Anand Chaitanya Prabhu gets are very different. And it does not mean one is better than the other. It means the super soul within enables or allows you to take exactly what you need in that point in time. So if you see, even the reflection that Kadukana Prabhu or Anand Chaitanya Prabhu would give would be very different, even though it was the same class that they heard, even if they had read the same books until that point in time in their lives. The realization and what one devotee gets from the other is actually enabled by the Paramatma. And we know that in that the real way to realize the Paramatma is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, I think 6:17. It says, Jitatma Prashantasya. Um, sorry, I forget. 6:17. Sorry, yeah, Jitatma Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. The only one who has conquered the mind, Jita Atma Prashantasya, who has, as we say in the Nectar of Instruction, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. Manasa Vegam is what Prashantasya means. Shant is peace, tranquility. One who has controlled the mind. Manasa Vegam is controlled. That person is one who's capable of being Jitatma, to conquer the mind. Paramatma Samahitaha. Samahitaha means approached completely. And the Paramatma can be approached completely only if one has complete control over their mind, which comes from real manasavega, from controlling the vega or the pullings and pushings of the proddings of the mind. Only one who can control them is capable of understanding or realizing what the Paramatma is. And we know that the Paramatma is responsible for smritir jnanam apohanam cha. For smriti, which is the knowledge, smaran, smriti, jnanam is knowledge, remembrance and knowledge, and apohanam is forgetfulness. So it is the Paramatma who is responsible for remembrance, forgetfulness, as well as knowledge. So one who really conquers the mind is the one who can actually realize the Paramatma, which means they can conquer what they can remember, forget in their lives. And that's exactly what we need at the time of death. Smriti or Smaranam is the one thing that will protect one at the time of death, as we've seen in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that whatever you remember at the time of death, that is what one will take to their next life. If they've dedicated their lives to serving Krishna as a servant in a sincere mood, then they will attain the highest abode, the Paravyoma planets, that Paravyoma that we speak about in this verse. So, as I was saying, I wanted to also give a few anecdotes when Prabhupada's disciples have shared, maybe just maybe two small anecdotes. There are multiple, where, as you can see, especially from Prabhupada's case, not all of the disciples had a lot of association with Prabhupada, but yet they have had a lasting effect, impact, and reciprocation from their Guru. As we can see in Bhakti Maharaj's book himself, he barely got one instance in England when he was initiated, and pretty much that was his most of his re- interactions with Prabhupada. Yet he's taken up got a lot of reciprocation from Prabhupada, even though he was not directly having a lot of association. And we remember from Bhrigupati Prabhu as well. He was saying that there was only one sentence that Prabhupada mentioned, and that completely transformed the way he saw the Krishna consciousness movement and how he took to Krishna consciousness and book distribution so seriously. I think Ambrish Prabhu and Jesh Prabhu were sharing the other day about how Bhagavati Prabhu had mentioned that in a class. It was just one sentence, and that completely transformed the way he saw the Krishna consciousness movement. And it was exactly what he needed to hear. From his sincere practice, Krishna saw that he deserved to listen to this one sentence, and he took that as his life and mission. And I think Vijay Prabhu was mentioning in a recent class, although it's not directly a reciprocation of Prabhupada, that a devotee just heard that a regular person, not yet a devotee, he heard that, oh, you're a punk, you're just a punk. And that one sentence kind of cut his false ego to realize that, hey, I am pretty small. The Paramatma is within me, and the Paramatma allowed him to realize that. Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The Paramatma allowed him to catch to that one sentence, and then that person became a devotee. There's also another, I think this is in Australia, where's the Rath Yatra, not Australia, maybe. Okay, I forget the location, but it's where a disciple of Prabhupada, they're all a part of the Rath Yatra, and he's below the Rath cart, and he suddenly had this real inclination to touch the lotus feet of Prabhupada. And he was like, why do I suddenly feel this? This is Rath Yatra, and we are all pulling the Rath cart and having kirtan. Why do I get this sudden pulling to? But he feels like, yes, I would like to, but obviously in this crowd, there is no chance I can get that opportunity. But a few minutes later, Prabhupada stepped down from the Rath cart as he was finding the lordships and performing the arti and stood right in front of him. And he actually got the opportunity to fall at Prabhupada's feet. And it goes to show that the super soul is really listening. And if you're sincere enough, and the super soul, as Paramatma, realizes that you deserve this, the Paramatma will cause that to happen. So yesterday, the day before yesterday, as Kautokaran Prabhu was saying in his class, that the Supreme Lord is also from Keshav Swami's class recently that we were hearing. Whatever happens, happens for a reason. Nothing is random. And he said, nothing is unfair, nothing is meaningless. That's because the Supreme Lord has the three qualities that, go along with these. He's supreme in the sense that none of the demigods or devatas are going to say, okay, Supreme Lord is not going to say, oh, Indra is more supreme or superior to me. So if he causes excessive rain, I cannot stop it. He does not say that. He can stop it. He can humble Indra, as we've seen multiple times. And he's Maheshwara. He's supreme. He's Maha Ishwara. And we see in these 24 names, the last name is Upendra. Upa is, like we were seeing, Upadrashta is overseer. Indra is in like Lord Indra. Upendra, the name of the Lord, is he is above Indra. He is the master of Indra. He's superior to Indra. So he is the supreme. That's supreme. And the second quality that that's concomitant with these three things: that random, meaningful, and um, nothing is random, nothing is unfair. So that goes with this is the fact that he is all perfect. He would, just because Jesh Prabhu and I share one room in this flat does not mean Jesh Prabhu gets my karma or I get Jesh Prabhu's karma, right? He gets what his karma is. So he is supreme and he is all perfect. That's the reason why nothing that he does is unfair or random. It's for a very specific reason that you can only look back and connect the dots. And the last thing that is Krishna's loves his devotees. So he's all loving. So he's supreme, he is all perfect, and he's all loving. So no matter what one does, he's Suhridam Sarva Bhutana. So for every living entity, he is Suhrid, or he's the ever well wisher. As we've heard multiple classes, that's how Prabhupada would uh, sign his letters, your ever well wisher. Because no matter how um, entangled in karmic duties or Maya one is, Prabhupada genuinely wanted that person to make spiritual progress. And that's exactly what the super soul wants, and Prabhupada was kind of assisting. So, as Vijay Prabhu has mentioned multiple times in his classes, that when he goes out on books, he knows it's a 3v1. Your own Paramatma wants that person to take the book, you wanted them to take the book. Their Paramatma also wants them to take the book. Only they are a little on the fence. So we need to kind of push them and the Paramatma to enable them to accept the book. Right? So that is how the reciprocity works with the Paramatma. So yeah, and as we know, especially from Vijay Prabhu's class yesterday, that in this lifetime, our parents are, or our soul and our body and all of our fallible soldiers are with us from womb to tomb, maximum. And when we go to the next lifetime, it's another parent, another interaction, could be even another animal, anything. It could be demigod, could be anything. But it's not the same parents, right? They're like fallible soldiers. It does not mean we don't respect them. It's just that they're fallible soldiers, and we need to really realize the string of the in the necklace, the connecting string among the pearls. That is a supreme Lord. That is, he is with us in this lifetime, in between lifetimes, and forever until we go back to the spiritual world. It is said that the Paramatma is not there in the spiritual world because he's here only to facilitate our life here as the Upadrashta Hanumanta. And when we go back, there's no reason for the Paramatma to exist because the Supreme Lord is himself in front of us. So he's only with us in this material realm. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. And that goes to show that this is like an inner CCTV camera, right? He sees everything that is being done and he knows what is in the heart. As Gauragovinda Maharaj famously says, Krishna knows the heart, Baba. He says with such conviction, Krishna knows exactly what is in the heart. I think I've mentioned this past time before. So he was in a home program, and so he asks the owner of the home a very difficult question to answer. Whose home is this? He asks the owner of the home. Oh, at least he has the grant for this lifetime or for these many years. I'm the owner. He has the grant with him. So he asks him, whose home is this, Baba? And that devotee who's a disciple of Gauragovinda Maharaj is caught in a fix, right? If he says it is the Supreme Lord's, then his Guru Maharaj will tell him to step out. Why is he claiming ownership of Krishna's home? And if he says it is his home, then he is going to get chastised. You're stealing from Krishna and saying this is your own thing. So he was in a catch-22 situation. And out of humility, he said, this is Krishna's home and I would like to serve. And Gauragovinda Maharaj obviously brought the danda or the stick of discipline and saying, give me the keys. This is for Krishna. This is not your home. Obviously, he wanted to make a point. The Gauragovinda Maharaj obviously didn't take his house or something like that, but he's trying to make a point that this is what he needed to hear at that point in time too, so that he's more detached, does not see this as his house, and sees this as the house of Krishna that we're given an opportunity to be a part of and serve, but they are the lordships. As we've seen in many of the home programs, especially I remember Shamrup Prabhu, I think, where they, in their invitation, they say it's the home of their deities. They say their home, and then below they give the address, and then below that they say served by Shamrup Das and his good wife. And I think they have a child. The child's name is also there. So that is the right mood to have it in. Like maybe Jesh Prabhu and I will be moving to a new place. We can see it as our own home and do many activities. But if we are able to hold the right mood, that the Supreme Lord has enabled us to come to a place where we can continue to serve the ashram here, go to the temple, and also take care of the deities in the home. And we are just there as travel, the people who come to Bhakti SF, they are called world packers who travel from place to place. Similarly, we are traveling from body to body. And at this point in time, we've come to this house, maybe apartment number 7, apartment number 34, so that we can serve and then continue on our backpacking to the next service. So, and one interesting thing that I was thinking about, which I want to discuss in today's class, was since the Paramatma is like that in inner CCTV camera, he sees everything that we know. But that does not always mean or only mean that he sees only the bad things. He also sees the things that are unseen, the services that one performs behind closed doors, the sincerity that one has, the difficulties that one is trying to fight. And there are so many, as we can see, for example, in the Salted Bread, the book about the revolution and how the devotees struggled. And we also see the story of Ragini Mataji in the New Vrindavan project. Um, yes. So she was the devotee who served Lord Jagannath, and I think in one class I mentioned like she didn't have that time at all. That she would be cooking, and the way she would complete her rounds was that the beads would be hanging on a nail close by, and she would look at each bead, chant while doing the service. That was because she was the only person on the hilltop serving Lord Jagannath, and she had to perform everything herself. Devotees would just come, offer their obeisances, prayers, and then leave. That's it. So single-handedly, she would do all of these services. And towards the end of her life, when she was actually shot, like in I think in somewhere in Africa, where devotees were kind of um, persecuted and kidnapped by some gang or something, and then they were about to shoot all the men, and then she went in front of them to protect them, and then was shot. Right. So the Supreme Lord, a super soul, sees all of these activities. So it's not that he just sees all the mistakes that one performs and then punishes them accordingly for those mistakes. He also sees all of the unseen things that happen, all of the unseen services that go behind, unnoticed. He notices all of them. And so it goes to show that I think the Under Armour commercial I was saying, what what you do in the dark puts you in the light, kind of thing. So no matter what you do at any point in time, the Supreme Lord is watching, and he knows that this is the level of the devotee. And I think Keshav Swami has mentioned that you can only know the amount of realization or how much progress you've made in two situations. One is when you're alone, when the facade of the association of all the devotees is not there. That's when you will know how much devotion you actually have. Other Because the material world or Maya is so attractive that when one is among the devotees, it's very easy to be devotional. I mean, you'll naturally feel like chanting and dancing, discussing topics about Krishna. But when you're alone, let's say someone is traveling by themselves, even if it's for, let's say, traveling some kirtan, when you're by yourself alone, that's when you know how much progress you've really made. And the second thing is when you're put into a difficult circumstance, because this is one of the things that really challenges a devotee's faith. So there are two ways to look at challenging somebody's faith. One is it breaks a little bit, but like muscle, it grows back stronger, right? If somebody has a doubt and the doubt is addressed in a really good way and that doubt is removed completely, then their shraddha or faith increases. But if it further weakens and they are not making an attempt to strengthen their faith, it starts to erode to a point where people start becoming agnostic. I'm not saying like devotees, I'm just saying generally, most people will have some baseline level of faith, but as the faith gets eroded and they make no attempt to renew that, it starts to go to a point of no return. And that's how people start becoming atheistic. I think in the UK, there was actually like a public prosecution where they were trying to say that these are all the atrocities that happen in this world. Therefore, there is no God. And they went to the court of law to establish. Sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, so they went to the court of law to fight that there is no God because of all of the difficulties that are happening. So we must, to our best effort, try to see difficult circumstances as the Lord trying to communicate something with us. This is also a form of reciprocation. And we heard in our Keshav Swami class that a famous tennis player who won many Grand Slams, even um, in, I don't know what it is called, the Roland Garros. I don't know. The famous not French Open, but okay. So he won that, but he also developed a form of cancerous tumor, and maybe his life was limited. And when he was interviewed, they were like, "Oh, it's so unfortunate that you developed this cancer." And he had a very good response. He was saying, "When I won, when I was world number one, when I won the French Open, when I won these things, I never asked the Supreme Lord why me. Out of millions and millions, I developed. I was the first seeded player to win, or some exact wordings, but I never asked at that time why me. But now that I've developed a rare form of cancer that cannot be cured, how can I ask the Lord why me? It's not fair to do that." So he's able to see that difficult circumstance as maybe not in a devotional light, but he was able to see it as unfair of him to ask why me at that point in time. So it is in difficult circumstances that your faith is tested, but also it is an opportunity to strengthen it at that point in time. So we spoke about how the Lord is the inner CCTV, how he's the Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes, but not the cause of all effect. We also saw he's the Drashta, or he's the seer, overseer. Then we also spoke about Jitatma Prashantasya Paramatma Samahitaha, how one who's able to control their mind and all the pullings and pushings of the mind is the only one who can conquer the mind and realize the Paramatma, which is required for the final thing. Smritir Jnanam Apohanam cha. One can actually communicate and get the reciprocation of Paramatma when they really need it to get the remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. I would just like to close out today's class by maybe quickly talking about the 24 different um, forms of the Lord that are mentioned here. That is Purushottama. Purushottama is Purusha, or he's the personality. Uttama is highest. So he's the highest personality. He's the ultimate personality. Purushottama. And Lord Ram is called Maryada Purushottama. Maryada is respect, or the most respectable person is Lord Ram. So Supreme Lord is known as Purushottama. The next is Achyuta. So there is this small pastime that's mentioned in the Mahabharata, as well as quote, a part of it is also there in the eighth canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is about the Rishi Chavana Rishi, and his, I think his wife is called Sukanya. So it's mentioned in the eighth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Chavana was old and he wanted to be young again. So the Ashwini Kumaras gave him um, a concoction that he has to eat, and as a result of eating that, he became youthful and young again, and that is what we call as chavanprash, as it is quite famous in India. It is a mix of many herbs that are put together with something a little sweet so that you can consume it, and people consume it a lot. So Chavana was actually born, or he was called Chavana, because of Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni and his wife Puloma, they were actually husband and wife. They were living in the forest, and Bhrigu Rishi left. In the sense, um, he went to do his activities, and Puloma was by herself. And a demon came to Puloma and started to harass Puloma. So in that situation, she was very afraid, and she was actually pregnant at that time. And in the fear, she left um, the embryo, and the embryo came out at that point in time, and the child was born. But because it was chavan, or it's called chuti. Chuti means it is cut off or let go, and the baby was born. He was called Chavana Rishi, right? So the reason I bring that up is in the Vishnu Sahasranama, the 101st name of the Lord is Achyuta. That's mentioned in the Vishnu Sahasranama, 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. And Achyuta brings this pastime into light. And it is also because in the love letter that Rukmini wrote to Krishna, she says, Twai Achyuta. I know you will come for me because your name is Achyuta, because Achyuta is the infallible one, or the one who will never give up on you, right? No matter what you do. That doesn't give a license to do whatever you want, but he would never give you up. Because of that, he's called Achyuta, because Rukmini is kind of blackmailing Krishna. Look, your name is Achyuta, so if you don't come and kidnap me from my marriage with Shishupal, it means you are not Achyuta, you're just Chuta. You're the one who gives up. And so she kind of slowly blackmails Krishna. So if your name is really Achyuta, you will come and kidnap me from the marriage at Shishupal. So that is why he's known as Achyuta. Okay, I think we are already okay. We are over time. There are 22 more names of Krishna. It will take a longer time, but
one more class.
Okay, I think I will maybe stop here, and I would like to receive many corrections, reflections, friendly or even unfriendly challenges are welcome. Thank you very much for attending my class.
friendly
Please,
challenge.
yes, Prabhu.
So you said too that Krishna is the cause of all causes, but not all effects. But effect is ultimately a cause. Cause creates an effect, and the effect becomes cause for another effect.
That's yeah.
So how do we understand that Krishna is not the cause of the effect?
That is an excellent question, Prabhu. I had the same question, and that's why there's a class by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu where he explicitly discusses this thing, why he is the cause of all effects. And he also has a Bhagavad Gita daily reflection where he exactly talks about this. And from that, what I gathered was that um, he gives the example of like the leaders of society who sometimes take to war. So he says the causal potency of them having access to press a button and decimate an entire population is the causal potency that the Lord sanctioned that person to have. What that person does with that sanctioned potency is his free will. And but then whatever effect that happens, Krishna has control over that. In the sense, if no human was supposed to die from that whatever weapon was used, nobody will be dead. So he has control over the effects as well, but the causality of that is what he can control. Like he can control the person having access to the weapons and clicking a button or using a knife for surgery or using a knife to murder somebody. All of the causal potency is with him, giving the knife to the person. What that person does, he is up to him. That's his free will. But what effect that has is also in his control. I think there's this famous person who got the Nobel Peace Prize. I think Malala Yousafzai. She was shot multiple times, but she didn't die, right? And she became famous for whatever theory she talks about and preaches. But the Lord had control over that. There are also many situations. There's also, I think I heard in some class where a person had a pocket Bible in their chest and somebody tried to stab them, but it only went through the Bible and didn't touch them at all. And there are many such instances where, of course, the Lord has potency. Like, for example, you yourself mentioned that you were driving tired with Krishna Saka Prabhu, and then you went off course a little bit. But because there were books in the car, you were saved. Nothing really happened. Maybe, and you said the car was not even dented. It only had some leaves in the wheel, right? So the Supreme Lord has all the effects. Ever since then, you made sure you take sufficient prasadam and the rest. Malini Mataji also said that. And I'm just saying this because you mentioned in a class as well. But the Lord has control over those effects. He's just that you have the free will to exercise whatever He sanctioned, and He oversees that. So He has complete control. Yes, that's my understanding from that. I can share the class with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, bro? Bhagavatam ki jai. No.
Yeah.